as a bit of a special that we've been holding off on, we're going to talk about what every other watch YouTube channel have talked about, and that is Rolex. No self-respecting or self-disrespecting watch channel would exist without talking about Rolex. So we're going to talk about Rolex, but it's going to be a bit of an interesting one. And I'm going to ask Daniel, who's behind the camera, to put a very clickbaity thumbnail on. It could be, do not buy Rolex, like every other YouTuber's done. What are you wearing today?
That is still my Seiko Sport.
You love that one, huh?
And this is my beta watch.
Which is also a memorable one because you bought that with your first paycheck here.
That's right. And I'm surprised I'm beating it around this much, to be honest, because I feel like it's got so many scratches already. But all of my newer watches, I feel like once you get a new watch, you kind of just put it off, wear it for like a special occasion, and then once you get a few scratches, you want it enough, then it will get into your regular cycle of beta watch.
Yes, those scratches are uniquely yours.
That's right.
You will never find that scratch on that watch in that particular way on another watch.
Yeah.
So it's like your fingerprint, right? So if you're not getting into the watch game to resell, like all the grey sellers out there, then more the merrier. On my wrist, I'm wearing a vintage watch, the Omega Seamaster Cosmic 2000. This is probably one of the first vintage watches that I bought without actually knowing that it was a vintage watch. Purely because I saw it on eBay and it was just so nice and polished up, and I'm going, wow, look at that Omega, that looks fantastic. And it was super affordable. I think it was only back then when I got it, was only $400 or $500.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, look at that Omega. I can afford an Omega with $400 or $500.
Yeah.
Buy! Lucky it wasn't a fake one, but it was a vintage one. I think this is from the early 70s. Which is not a good period for Omega when they started using really crappy movements.
Yeah.
The vintage Omega Seamasters, in terms of its movement and better regarded, are the ones in the 60s, also that I've researched. But this one you can tell somebody's actually lovingly restored, right? They've completely deconstructed, cleaned it, made it really shiny, and they've cleaned up, polished up the dial. Everything is just pristine. But then I broke it, all right? And this is probably a cautionary tale to all of you young collectors who's never bought a vintage watch thinking it's a good idea. Be very cautious and careful because vintage watches are exactly that, right?
Yeah.
They're very precious around the edges. Okay, so where most of my vintage watches have come undone is usually the crown, because thinking that, haven't worn it for a while, pull it out, adjust it. Yeah. Be very careful and subtle, okay? Because you inadvertently think it's just one of your modern day watches. You pull on it hard, the whole thing comes out. Now, the thing still works. You can see it's still moving, right? I mean, so the movement still works, except this thing's not attached to it. So I can actually pull this bloody thing out now, or not that I should do it.
Oh wow!
And you can see the thing just
comes out.
It just comes out. So something is broken in there.
Yeah.
Which then I need to now go back to, go to a watchmaker to sort of, you can see the click as well, you can see to get it fixed, and God knows how much that's going to cost me. So there's a cautionary tale on vintage watches. So back to the subject today, Rolex. So the two I have here is one is what's known as the 𝙔𝙬. It's ceramic, but it's not the latest one. But I bought this in Spain on one of my holidays there. And I bought this in a shop. It was in the storefront, and I wanted a watch to mark that trip.
Yeah.
Walked in, paid the money, there you go. And I remember this trip so vividly with this particular watch.
Yeah.
I was so safeguarding the watch. The watch is everything, right?
Yeah.
When I turned up to the airport to go from, I think it was from Barcelona to fly to Moscow, I turned up the airport, they go, passport please. And I had no idea what my passport is, and I had lost my passport.
Wow.
And all I remember was I still got my Rolex. So I had to go to I had to go to Madrid, and spend extra 3 days, which is not a bad place to spend extra 3 days,
Yeah.
to go to the consulate, get an emergency passport, then carry on doing my Russia trip. So this again, you know, when I talk about collecting watches, as soon as I touched these watches, the memories of that
That's right.
came right back, you know, like, and that's the beauty of collecting. So I bought the Bluesy out. I have other subs that I have, but I wanted to bring this out because to prove the point, Rolexes are very expensive things now. Let's face it, it's an accomplishment watch. You accomplish something, you buy a Rolex.
Yeah.
Okay. The two-tone Bluesy, obviously because of the gold element, it's far more expensive than the stainless steel version.
Yeah.
But during the pandemic hype, these stainless steel ones were actually worth more than the two-tone ones, right? It's just crazy. You know, why would someone pay more for a stainless steel watch over one that has gold on it?
That's right. It doesn't make.
It just doesn't make sense. A stainless steel ceramic sub, date or no date, it's still a stainless steel watch. Does it have good quality workmanship? Absolutely. Is it an overpriced piece of kit? Because this is probably, I think this is about just shy of 13,000 Australian dollars. Absolutely, it's overpriced. $13,000 for a steel ceramic watch. Okay, they're using the 904 steel and blah, 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 the Rolex heritage. Okay, we all pay for that.
Yeah.
Nobody polishes the case like Rolex, all them, but it's a machine-made watch. It's a mass-produced machine-made watch.
Right. For me, and maybe a majority of people, young folks, right? Obviously, we want a Rolex on our wrist.
Okay, but why?
And the reason why is because it comes with the prestige of having a Rolex, right? Where it's titled as, you know, such a huge accomplishment. It's linked with wealth. So I think it plays on a lot of the ego for a lot of youths. You know, nowadays they're all wearing a lot of the big brand names, Balenciaga, Celine and whatnot. I think it's very similar, right? Because they advertise it so well and it's such a well-known brand.
Yep.
That's what increases the value.
It's the equivalent of loud luxury.
Yes,
Okay.
I reckon so.
So looking at both pieces, all right, and just focusing on this right now,
Yep.
you're only 22 years old, right? But you, like most people on this planet, have heard of Rolex.
That's
and
right.
You, like most people, without even loving watches, have heard of the Submariner. Now you're a 22-year-old who is super bright, great future ahead of you. Is this something you would work hard towards to acquire, this exact piece?
I think initially, yes.
Okay.
Initially, because I think this is one of the most entry-level Rolexes you can get that is very well known.
Okay.
Which is why a lot of people work towards it initially.
Yeah.
But I think as your journey goes and then you kind of discover more watches and then, because it is a hefty purchase. It isn't just a purchase where you just decide instantly and then you go and buy. So I think after a lot of thought, I think, you know, depending on the person as well, if they don't have like a dive watch, they want their first Submariner,
Right.
they would probably go for the Rolex.
But let's be brutally honest, how many people who buys a modern day Submariner or any Submariner is actually going to go diving? I mean, forget about diving. How many divers actually buy the watch? How many, you know, this is so far from what my idea what a Submariner is. Most people would equate a Submariner to fictional hero, James Bond, right? Yeah. But to be frank, I actually, when I think about a Rolex Submariner, a stainless steel one, it's not James Bond, it's Fidel Castro. You know, I believe it was a shot in the 60s or something. He was, I think, given an interview, or I believe he had a cigar or a cigarette, and he's sitting there and his Rolex was just hanging out there. And this guy was a revolutionary, you know, down with the capitalist pigs and all that sort of stuff, right? And there he was wearing this particular Rolex. Now, back then, Rolex was it's still a prestigious thing. However, it was a tool watch for what it is, right?
Yeah.
That to me is the Submariner. And I guess this is why I asked you, like, you know, and all the other young folks who's looking at this episode, is that if you're really got your heart set on a Submariner, ask yourself, why do you want a Rolex stainless steel Submariner, right?
Right.
And if it's because, look, it's the modern day version of something that's iconic, I don't know the history past what I can see today, and I just love the looks of it, go for gold, buy it. But if it's because you're trying to get a, you know, it doesn't matter how young you are, and you researched it, you love the nostalgia, that's not going to give you that feeling. It's not. It's just, it is. I mean, isn't. Save up and go buy a pre-ceramic.
Right.
I'm actually talking with Austin Daniels from his channel, The Watch Symposium. He's one of the long-time running watch sort of YouTubers that I actually pay attention to. He never does these silly thumbnails that somebody has to pull a face like, all of that. Oh, maybe every time I saw it, it gives me cringe. It's like, stop that already. It's so 2020s.
Yeah.
He's one of those watch geeks where he's an actual real geek in it. I never purported to tell everyone I know about the movements. I can't talk about it. I can only tell people how I feel or how these watches make me feel. So I'm not a fake guru. There are a lot of them out there. And it's one of those things when you like spend so much money to acquire something and you're just sitting there and you look at it and you're just getting nothing back.
Right.
Nothing back. If you want to buy something to celebrate a special accomplishment, go away from the steel. Go for some precious metal.
Yeah, that one really pops.
This is now becomes a special occasion watch. Because it's got a bit of the luster from the gold and the blue, and it's a beautiful watch.
It really is.
These are equally mass-produced, but a lot more people are going to have this. If you have enough money to buy a steel, you're about 6 months away of saving to acquire that. Aftermarket, grey market, different story. You can pick one of these up for, both of these for less than retail these days. I would still recommend any person say, look, I want a Rolex, I want a Submariner. I wouldn't push them towards a new modern day Submariner still. I would say if you're buying this because you're celebrating a moment, have some precious metal on it. Well, those are my thoughts.
Yeah. Well, I think also there's different tiers, right? Depending on, their income and then how they're going as well. This could be that precious thing for them as well.
I get it.
Yeah.
And that's perfectly fine. Doesn't matter whether you spend $500 or $5 million on a watch. Make sure the intention, the purpose is wholesome, and you understand the watch you are buying instead of just buying the idea, because you're going to be disappointed if you're just buying the idea. You got to buy the thing for what it is and whether it matches and marries up to your idea. The other day a friend was asking me, going, given that the hype is over now, because during the pandemic hype, getting a Rolex retail was special, right? Prices have already taken a huge plummet from their COVID highs. Watch forums, communities, or people selling watches from different areas. You can get most Rolexes at retail, slightly above retail, or some under retail.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
I think by this time next year, you will be able to get most Rolexes and other brands below retail.
Really?
Right. Because there's just so much stuff. Rolex makes 1 million watches a year.
Really?
1 million watches a year.
Wow.
Okay, when you look at a specific model and what have you, because they've got such a diverse range, it's not a lot, but it's still quite a bit. Okay, every year they're pumping these things out, right? And that's the thing. Like, you buy this watch, you go to any watch event, you go to any event, wedding, whatever. I can guarantee you, there'll be 2-3 people there wearing this watch. So that's my point, isn't it? You buy something to celebrate something. It's my achievement, and then you rock up. It's like rocking up with the same suit, and you look at each other. And it's not pleasant.
It's not.
It's not pleasant. I haven't seen many people with a bluesy on in most events, but that thing, every man and his dog's got one.
Yeah.
I will recommend every person, especially if you're young and you're budget conscious and so forth. Say, if you're looking to get a Breitling or whatever other brands, don't buy a new, buy a second hand. Most of my watches are second hand, and I've enjoyed every single piece. And once you start buying it, you're really getting to the watch community, and and you start understanding what to look out for from eBay ads or the way a listing is written up and so forth. You can tell a watch lover from a mile away. Part of collecting watches, it's not about just going to the boutique and have a glass of champagne and, hoopy, hooray, you buy a new watch. It's about trading watches. You don't want to wear that one anymore. You trade with someone who else loves it, or you buy a second hand from that one and then you sell yours and so forth. That's what part of the collecting journey is, and it's super enjoyable. I'm complaining about owning Rolexes, and I'm very much aware of this, guys. It's a first world problem. I am aware.